Welcome back, and this is Teacher Elemi from Yeyeo Botanica, and today we're going to talk a little bit about how to find the right spiritual mentor for you. So, let's get started. This idea of a mentor, right, is like a teacher, and a lot of times people are looking for people that fit a certain profile. Are they in a traditional practice? Are they a yoga instructor? Are they a meditative teacher? Whatever it is that you're looking for, it's really important to get clear about what that is. And a lot of times I notice that people come to look for a mentor, but they're not even clear about what they're looking for, much less what they want to learn. So it's really important to really take some time to focus on, one, what is it that you want to learn? What is it that this person's supposed to bring to the table for you? And two, what are you willing to do to work with that person? So I like to tell little sidebar stories, right? So years ago, this person sent someone to me. The person was really aggressive about wanting to meet and wanting to speak. And I used to live in New York, and now I live in New Jersey. And so the person just showed up. They showed up when I was just about to walk out the door. There was no phone call. There was no, can I come by? Is this a good time for you? I'd love to meet, kind of talk a little bit. There was none of that. They just showed up. And so that was maybe red flag number one, right? For me as a person who mentors people. So anyway, the person shows up and he's like, I was dealing with this person and it was this problem. I was dealing with that person and it was that problem. And it was this and it was that. It was always a problem about everybody else. And then the biggest part that was just so puzzling to me was he says to me, he goes, well, the person that I was dealing with only lived down the street from me. And you live in New Jersey. So I said to him, then maybe you should find someone who lives down the street from you. So I say that to say, one, Spirit wants us to work for them. Nobody gets anything for free. And in the spiritual world, they're not going to get anything for free. Spirits want people to work. If you're not willing to work for yourself, then you're not willing to get involved in spiritual practices and have a mentor. So people oftentimes want the mentor to be, check, 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 check for them, but they're not willing to do the work. They're not willing to sacrifice. They're not willing to jump through hoops. They're not willing to be a student. And so when I mentor people, I tell them, you need to be willing to be a student of life and of spirituality. If you're not willing to do that, you're wasting your time. So in traditional practices, whether or not you are dealing with South American shamanism, traditional Indian practices, traditional African practices, anything that has to do with indigenous practices, you have to deal with some level of give to get. And it's not money. Money is only a very small percentage of what you give. What is way more impactful is, are you giving time? Are you willing to give energy? Are you willing to sacrifice without excuse? Are you willing to show up when it's inconvenient? Are you willing to put in hours of work and time and dedication, of practice, of just being in ceremonies for very long times? If you're not willing to do that, these practices are not for you, right? So a lot of times I realize that people really are not thinking about these things. They're only focused on what the mentor is supposed to do for them, but they're never thinking about what they need to do in order to get and absorb the benefits of the mentor, right? And so one is, are you looking for someone who is maternal or paternal? For women, a lot of times people, they say, I don't really care, male or female. Well, if you've got man issues, you shouldn't have a godfather, or you shouldn't have a male mentor. If you're a man and you have some serious women issues, you may want to consider having a male as your mentor. Or if you're a person that, yes, you may have these issues with the opposite gender, but you want to heal those issues, then the opposite gender may be perfect for you, right? You kind of need to look at what your personality is. Some people have issues with authority. Well, if you have issues with authority, you're going to have a hard time having a mentor, right? That's one. And two, if you have issues with authority, but you're able to take in information and realize, hey, this is an opportunity for me to learn and to expand myself, then having a mentor having a mentor in general is fine. It depends on how open you are. If you're not open, traditional practices of mentorship is not going to work for you. I like to tell you that straight off the jump. If not, you're going to be a person who comes, you either want power, you want learning, you want this, you want that, and you want it in a spoon. If you want it in a spoon, traditional practices are not that. Spoon is somewhere where you get a book, you read it, you understand it, you study it, next, right? But if you're a person who you really want to kind of expand yourself and get into the flow of things and are willing to get into the flow of things, then traditional spirituality is for you, whether it be African, South American, Asian, whatever traditional practice you're looking at. Is this person legit? Can you figure out who this person is? Can you go get information on this person? Are they really, really real? Right? There are times that people get involved in traditional practices and the person, they have no way to legitimize them. They have no one to ask about them. They've never seen them before. So there are some people who are, I call high profile, and people who are medium, and people who are low profile. I don't really think that it makes a difference what level they're in. I think what's most important is, do they have the skills for you? Do they have the right personality for you? Or do they have something to offer that is helpful for you? Those are the things that are much more important. Learning about where a person is. Are they on Facebook? Are they not on Facebook? Are they on Instagram? Are they not on Instagram? None of that stuff matters. Because there are a lot of people who are on social media who hide behind social media, and they're not really legit. So I like to say, doesn't make a difference. As long as you're able to legitimize that person, ask them some questions, and then be able to prove those things to you in a way that doesn't sound like you're interrogating them, but in a way that sounds like you're really trying to get to know them. So that would be something that I would suggest. Are they transparent? Do they seem like, you ask them a question, they seem pretty comfortable with answering. If they don't know the answer, do they seem like their ego's not so big that they're willing to say, you know, I don't really know the answer to that, or I haven't really heard that question before. Maybe I'll go try to get some answers for you. Why? Because we're all in the journey of learning. We're all in the journey of living. And so if you have a mentor who seems like they're God and they're not learning and they're not growing and they're not open to it, I have to say that's a red flag. People who have this God complex. It's my way. It's what I tell you. Do not ask me any questions. Blah, 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 blah. That may not be the best choice for you who want to be a student of the Spirit, right? Because then that means that this person may be very authoritarian. And again, we go back to the type of personality that works best for you. If you like the authoritarian perspective, then that person will be perfect. But if you do not like that authoritarian, I can't speak method, that may not be the best person for you. Again, you need to look at yourself, look at your training, look at what you're used to, look at what you like. So, does that person resonate with you? So the previous thing that I mentioned kind of leads into that. Do they feel warm? If you like warm, do they seem friendly? If you like friendly. Whatever it is that you're attracted to, they need to have something that you feel that you're attracted to. If you feel very prickly, like, whoa, this person, I'm not really sure about them, that may not be the person to invest your life. Because a lot of times people don't realize when you get involved in these traditions, you're investing your life. You're investing your time. You're investing your energy. Time is worth something. Energy is worth something. And if you're allowing this person or these people to come into your personal life, your space, your family, your health, your children, your money, or whatever, you want to make sure that you know who they are, right? And that you connect with them. I give you an example. So I know a community in particular that community enjoys a lot of drug use. Well, a person who's not into doing a lot of drug use or having that in their lifestyle a lot, they have no business being in a community like that, right? That's just a perfect example of what I like versus what I don't like. Another community where they're big on having a lot of events. They party a lot, they have a lot of events, they have a really great time, but there's another person who wanted to be with that mentor, but they were pretty secluded. They were very quiet. They didn't want to have they're not really social. They don't want to get out of their comfort zone. They don't really want to get to know people very well. That's not the community for them. All those people being fun and play and talk and partying is going to eat them alive, so to speak, right? Another example. Third example. If a person is very old, or if the person's in their 60s and they meet someone in their 20s, that's not going to be a good connection. Why? Because a person in their 20s is not mature enough to deal with a person who's in their 60s and had all this life experience. If a person is in their 20s and they have a mentor that's pretty lively and fun and this and that, and they like that, going to be a good combination. But if a person is very young or in their 30s maybe, but they're very lively, they're very worldly, they know about what's playing on the radio or, what's hot on YouTube or whatever the case may be, and then they get together with a mentor who doesn't know anything about what's going on in the world, that may not be a good combination, right? So I've given you all different kinds of examples for things that you need to consider when considering the right spiritual mentor for you. So the other thing that I would encourage you guys to do is, does this person really have time for you? Right? So a lot of times there's some people who want a lot of attention. They want the person to be available every single time they send a text, every single time they send a telephone call, every single time the wind blows. If that's what they need, a person who has more than one person to attend to is not right for them. They need to find someone who's in the slow lane, right? If they want the benefits of the fast lane, then they have to be willing to work with what they have. So as an example, sometimes people come and they tell me, that godparent or that mentor, I'm going to use the word mentor for this video, but in traditional practices, especially in the Fa tradition, the word is godparent or elder. But for the sake of the video, because there are people who watch this video who are not in African practices, but they are in spiritual circles, the word mentor, I think, is much more appropriate, right? So there are people who come into these practices and they go, that person just says all these terms. I don't really understand what those terms are. Well, if the person's not a teacher and you want to be a student, that's not the best combination. If you don't want to study and you don't want to really think about all that stuff, then you need to find someone who's on your level. That's how you're going to find the best match for longevity. What happens a lot of times is people come into these practices, they look at their immediate problem. Oh, can the person fix my problem? Check. But then they come knocking on the door. Well, the Spirit says you came knocking. You got this long list of things you need to do. So people can get themselves caught up. And so that's going to be a whole nother conversation that we'll have for another day. The point is, you need to be willing to think in the back of your mind, am I here with this person just to be a client and to check off my problems? Or am I looking for life change? Because if you come with just a problem and the person fixes your problem, look at it as a Band-Aid. But if you're looking to get involved, to transform your life over a long haul, then you need to find people who you want to work with and you can see yourself working with for the long term. Today's conversation is not for the people who are dealing with, let's say, people who are misrepresenting themselves, who are not being authentically honest with the people that they're mentoring. Those fall in their own little category. We're not talking about those people. We're talking about generally speaking, right? The person's level of maturity, as I talked about, age, exposure, how do they deal with things? If they do not have a long history or have some history of teaching or doing spiritual work and things like that, and that's what you need, again, next, right? Are they respectful of you? I've been in this tradition for quite some time. I've had people disrespect me, and it still happens to this day. So, disrespect is something that people do because of that's what's their training, or they do not care about you as a human being. They only care about their ego, and that's why they're going to intentionally disrespect you or not care. If you're okay with wanting to be around people who speak to you or deal with you in a way that's disrespectful, then that community is perfect for you. But if you're a person who you want to be treated in a way that really honors you or makes you feel in some way honored, the person is open to hearing you. They're open to letting you speak. They're open to your perspective. They're open to your contribution, right? Because mentorship is about give and take. It's like a circle, right? Then, again, something else you need to keep in mind. And I would say the last part of this to consider, there's a longer list, but of course we want to keep this video into a decent amount of time. One of the final things I would say is, are they in a similar status as you? If you are a person, I like to use myself as an example. When I first came into this tradition, I was a professional person. I had my own life. I had my own resources, so on and so forth. And so did my elder. So it was perfect. In other words, I didn't feel like the relationship was out of balance. But I have met people who had lots of resources and were mentored by people who had less resources and felt that they were now becoming an ATM. So I like to say, whether it be good or bad, I'm not here to judge that. I'm not here to tell you one is good and one is bad. You have to decide that. But I am here to tell you, if it feels like it's drastically out of balance and that person does not have something to contribute to your life, whether it be information, a way to expand yourself, a way to think differently, a way to transform your life spiritually, if they don't have something to offer you, you need to think twice about whether or not that's even a mentorship relationship to begin with. And lastly, is the person appropriate? Again, that falls in the respect category, but we know in another video, the next video, I'm going to talk a little bit about inappropriate behavior. So if people are inappropriate, they're not respecting you, they're not this, they're not that, they again will not be the right person. So I hope that this was a lot of good information for you. I hope you guys are taking some notes. And Ashe, see you next time.